Please let me know in the comments and I will be more than happy to. Next week's video won't be on one specific game, but rather a collective of 5 which are based on real life events. So that was me around 5 or 6 months ago talking about next week's uploads. Been a minute since I've properly uploaded here. My bad for leaving with little explanation. Life got a bit too much and I dropped a lot of hobbies, YouTube included. However, I'm now fully back and looking forward to uploading more on the channel. I'm not promising anything as I don't like not being able to stick to promises, but I am aiming for a video every 2 to 4 weeks depending on how motivated and or busy I am. I already have a lot of ideas lined up which I just need to record and edit, and I'm already feeling more motivated to make them again. But that was just a quick explanation for why I've been gone so long. Thank you for understanding, and now it's time for the actual video. Hope you enjoy. Poppy Playtime is a game series which has only been around for not even 5 years, but has made itself more than well known already. Chances are that if you ask someone what it is, they'll know as it's everywhere now. I'd even go as far as to say it's on par with FNAF and Undertale with being the most well-known indie game of all time, which is really impressive for something which hasn't even been around for half a decade. There are currently 5 chapters released, and they're pretty good for the most part. In my opinion, chapter 3 is the best since it was actually scary and very clearly had a lot of effort put into it. That may change with chapter 5's release, although this was all written before that chapter came out. Moments like the nightmare Huggy hallucination, the catnap boss fight, and of course, the dog day scene really made the chapter stand out from the previous 2. It would be my favourite installment from the whole franchise, except there is one entry which I prefer to chapter 3, Project's Playtime. Project is a game which not a lot of people know about since it's not supported anymore. In fact, the last update to it was nearly 2.5 years ago now, which was actually part of the reason the game died off in the first place, believe it or not. But this video isn't going to be going over the history of the game. I actually already made one on that just over a year back. That video has since been unlisted though, and honestly it wasn't my greatest work, but for those who are curious, I'll leave the video URL in the description. This video is going to be going over everything that I love about the game and why for a good while it was my most played game on Steam. I really do enjoy it, and it is unfortunate that the game stopped getting supported, although that won't stop me from still playing it every now and then. With that being said though, I would love to talk about everything I love about the game, and that starts off with how it actually works. Project is an asymmetrical multiplayer horror game much like Dead by Daylight. There is one monster and 6 specialists, both of which have to race the other team to complete their objective first. The monster's objective is to eliminate all of the specialists, while the specialists have to complete puzzle pillars, collect and deposit toy parts, pull down a chute, and then call and escape on a train. Each specialist has 3 lives and comes equipped with a roll, a quick maneuver tool which can be used to create distance on a 5-second cooldown. It's very effective at both movement around the map to get to points of interest faster, and when used mid-chase to evade monsters' attacks and create distance. There are 3 monsters, each with a unique skill set: Huggy Wuggy, Mummy Longlegs, and Boxy Boo. Huggy has a dash which can one-shot specialists and doubles as a movement tool, if you really want to. It's not that good of an idea to use it for moving around since the cooldown is 30 seconds. You can also place Huggy drones around the map, which periodically spin around and scream when a specialist is in their line of sight, notifying the monster. Up to 5 of these can be placed around the map at once, and specialists have no way of destroying them. Any placed after 5 will replace the earliest one put down. Mummy has a grappling hook which pulls her to any surface she targets. She then sticks to the surface and can release with a short burst of speed in whichever direction she's facing. It doesn't have a cooldown, making it very useful for both map traversal and chase. Her other ability reveals all specialists on the map for a short duration of time, although on a very hefty 62-second cooldown. Boxy Boo has the most extensive kit of the 3. He's also the only character with a passive ability and a different attack pattern. The basic attack cooldown is half that of the other monsters, although it has reduced range and takes 5 hits to down specialists, where other monsters only have to deal 3 hits. His passive is a sort of radar, where he plays music which gets progressively more intense the closer he is to a specialist, allowing him to triangulate where enemies are. His 2 abilities are a leap which has to be charged up over 2.75 seconds, launching your set distance depending on how charged the ability is, and a grab which pulls in any specialist's hit and subsequently slows them on a 12-second cooldown. Once monsters down a specialist, they can pick them up by attacking them and carrying them to a hatch around the map, putting them in a state where all they can do is look around. Each specialist has 3 lives and 1 life is lost when a specialist is deposited into the hatch or when they spend 60 consecutive seconds in there without a teammate saving them. While monsters don't have perks, they have 1 sabotage which they can equip, which is a much more powerful perk on a lengthy cooldown. No pack completely disables specialists' grab packs for 25 seconds, although other specialists can interact with each other to negate the effect on a 180-second cooldown. Feeding Frenzy automatically sends specialists to a random hatch on the map when downed, and the effect lasts for 40 seconds with a 120-second cooldown. No Escape disables grapple handles and lockers while shutting all crash doors for 45 seconds on a 100-second cooldown. Booby traps the nearest 4 puzzle pillars to the monster, making the next specialist who attempts to work on them be damaged, slowed, and notify the monster of their location on a very big 240-second cooldown. Shutdown disables all puzzle pillars until a specialist re-enables them at either of 2 breakers by interacting with them for 20 seconds with their grab pack. Living Nightmare disables all navigation indicators and clouds specialist vision with Dark Fog, not allowing them to see far past them on a 120-second cooldown. If interested, here's a tier list on my opinion of the strength of each of these sabotages. This is just what I think though, and you can make a case for any sabotage being anywhere on the list. I just formed this based off my experience playing as and against these sabotages. Specialist's main mechanic is the grab pack, 2 extendable hands which can be used to interact with the environment. They can be used to complete puzzle pillars, close crash doors, pick up toy parts, swing from grapple handles, rescue teammates from hatches, pull down the toy chutes, counter sabotages, and cool the train. Left and right click will shoot each arm outwards respectively, and they can be extended a decent amount. The puzzle pillars can contain any 3 of 6 puzzles: piano, reflex, memory, maze, claw, and collage. The piano puzzle requires you to memorize and replicate a series of notes, starting at 1 key and increasing to 6 every time you complete a series. The reflex puzzle tests your reaction time, requiring you to hit 16 buttons in quick succession, each within a second. The memory puzzle shows you a bunch of flashing buttons before briefly showing 8 which you have to memorize and click on to activate. This action is repeated once before the puzzle is fully completed. The maze puzzle follows a ball falling through a circular maze, with you being able to tilt the circle left or right to allow the ball to travel through the path. The claw puzzle is a classic grab arcade game, except 2-dimensional. A claw moves horizontally across the screen and you have to time it to pick up the correct item 3 times, each time the claw getting faster and requiring more precise timing. The collage puzzle is a 3x3 grid of squares which form an art piece, each square being flipped around and requiring you to rotate them to make the art hold again. Failing any puzzle will not reset progress but will alert the monster to your position. While being chased, specialists can swing on grapple handles to cross gaps which some monsters can't, disabling the grapple handles for a short duration, or they can close crash doors, blocking the monster's path for a few seconds. Both are very effective at extending chases and losing the monster. A very niche mechanic is that holding interacts near a downed specialist will revive them off of the ground. This is never taught and isn't all that useful, but I have found use for it every now and then, and there's no harm in knowing it. While carrying a toy part, specialists can't use their grab pack or roll, meaning they have to check that the route to their nearest toy deposit is clear before walking it. Specialists can interact with lockers to hide in them, and then hold space to hold their breath, not making any noise while doing so. The animation for getting into a locker takes a while and makes a loud noise though, so it's not a good idea to do it mid-chase. Monsters can hit the locker 4 times to kick you out, allowing them to get a free hit or 2. Puzzle pillars will spawn 3 random puzzles on any 3 of their sides, with no repeated puzzles per pillar. Once all 3 are completed, a toy part will spawn, which you can collect with your grab pack and fully deposit in a toy chute. 8 puzzle pillars will spawn around the map, and the specialist must complete at least 6 of them to be able to deposit 6 toy parts. After this, the global time limits will be set to 3 minutes no matter what it was before, and specialists will be required to pull down a toy chute to allow the now assembled toy to be sent back to headquarters. Finally, after completing that task, specialists can call the train at either 2 locations and jump on it to finally escape. A small mechanic is that specialists will leave footprints behind briefly when running to help monsters track them better and not have to rely purely on audio when chasing them. Specialists can equip 3 perks at once, with 12 to choose from. Each perk can be upgraded to tier 3 with in-game currency, as is the same for sabotages. Roly Poly increases roll cooldown by 50%, but adds a second roll. Shadow Walker reduces footstep volume by 90%. Leave No Trace stops specialists from leaving footprints. Distant Saviour increases rescuing speed by 40%. Leadership heals you and anyone near you by 6% per second when someone else is within 5 meters of you. Punching Bag enables a rechargeable shield which tanks 1 hit every 30 seconds, which doesn't work against Huggy's Dash. Think Fast decreases the amount of buttons needed to be pressed on the reflex puzzle from 16 to 10. Genius allows you to make 3 mistakes on the memory puzzle before triggering a fail. Master Pianist decreases the amount of sequences needed to be completed on a piano from 6 to 3. Pathfinder increases the ball speed in the maze puzzle by 75%. Claw Collector decreases the movement speed of the claw by 15% on the claw puzzle. Puzzle Picasso allows specialists to make 3 mistakes on the collage puzzle before triggering a fail. Like sabotages, if you're interested in the strength of these, I'm putting on screen a tier list I made. Again though, just my opinion which I've formed from my experiences and by no means an objective truth. Tickets are earned through a few ways when playing the game. For specialists, they can be earned when completing puzzles, depositing toy parts, rescuing specialists and reviving specialists. Monsters can earn tickets by downing specialists and depositing them into a hatch. These tickets can be used to purchase perks, sabotages, and cosmetics. And that's about it for the mechanics of the game. There are quite a lot, and believe it or not, those aren't even all of them. The other mechanics are just more so niches that you don't really need to know. I think they all come together to work pretty well. The only real complaint I have is the perk and sabotage balance isn't the greatest. Some perks are completely useless while others are broken, and while no sabotages are useless, I would say that No Escape specifically is objectively insanely overpowered. Punching Bag, Leadership and No Escape are the ones I have problems with, since Leadership and Punching Bag both make chases literally unwinnable for the monster, and No Escape shuts down specialist traversability and chase potential for a third of the game. Some perks as well I wish were just reworked entirely, specifically the 3 D tier ones I mentioned. They aren't even bad perks for new players, but are just useless higher up since making mistakes will barely happen and Claw Collector literally is a downside. I don't get how it's a real perk. That being said, I do think the general balance of the game is pretty good. Monsters all have their strengths and weaknesses, and specialists don't feel too inescapable in chase if you play well as monster. I also think all the mechanics work really well to make a fun game. The puzzles are fun to do and are a welcome replacement to holding down a button to make progress. Map traversal is fun instead of walking large stretches. Even the maps themselves, while there aren't many, all play out differently, and I think that's really cool. The game is very fun and I would recommend you guys try it out yourself to see what I mean. And to help you guys out if you do decide to play, I wanted to dedicate the second part of this video to tips and tricks. Project has a lot of niche things you can do to help improve your gameplay. The first thing I'd like to do though is go a little in depth about perks and sabotages. I briefly showed the tier lists before, but I didn't have an explanation for them, so I'd like to dedicate a small part of this video towards that. I'll talk about sabotages first. No Escape is in my opinion a little better than No Pack, although the two can be interchangeable. I think it's really broken that No Escape lasts for 45 seconds and only has a 100-second cooldown. It shuts off efficient routes and chase potential for specialists for a third of the game. However, it does technically have the downside of shutting off routes for you as the monster as well, as the closed crash doors block both specialists and monsters from going through the area. No Pack is also extremely good as it has the similar effect of shutting off specialist chase potential by disabling them from performing the actions of closing crash doors and grapple handles, but it also disables near everything else they can do. With no grab pack, they can't complete puzzles, rescue other specialists, close the chute, cool the train, any action apart from rolling is blocked off. It's a very good tool since it has the effects of No Escape and then some, although a 20 seconds less duration and an 80-second higher cooldown. As well, specialists can hold interacts when near each other to re-enable their grab packs, although nobody really knows about this, so it's pretty negligible. Shutdown is really good for passive slowdown, although it can be fixed very quickly, which negates the effects pretty well. It's also not good on Huggy due to his lack of movement, making it a lot harder to patrol the two breakers at once. Still really good at shutting down specialists' progress though, since no puzzles can be completed for the duration of the effect. Feeding Frenzy is good at saving time and sometimes can give you another chase. Leaving specialists on the ground for 30 seconds will automatically revive them back to full health, which means that if you down one and see another, the time it takes to carry the downed one to a hatch will allow the other specialist to run away. Feeding Frenzy removes this downside by automatically sending them to a hatch and allowing you to chase the second specialist. The downside is that it's not very good on Huggy due to his low snowball potential and bad movement, making chases a lot harder for him. Also, it doesn't tell you where the specialist is going, so they could be immediately rescued because it sent them to a hatch right next to a teammate, which is what holds it back from being S tier. Living Nightmare is fine, and that's about it. The navigation indicators don't do much for anything besides not telling you where down specialists are, and if you have any more than 5 hours in the game, you'll already know your way around the maps. It can get you a few sneaky hits, although I'd say it's a lot better on Huggy and Mummy, since Boxy just makes way too much noise for it to be useful on him. Booby Trap isn't great, still useful but not amazing. The damage it gives is next to nothing, the slow only lasts for a few seconds, and the only good part is the information. Issue is that every monster already has built-in information. I think it's best used on Mummy since her spotter lens has a big cooldown, and it can kind of be used as a secondary info tool to help find specialists. Not very good on other monsters though, and okay at best on her, which is why it's put so low. As for perks, it's pretty clear that Leadership and Punching Bag are insanely overpowered. Healing for 6% of your health per second is insane. It gets to the point where standing next to a teammate doing nothing for 5 to 6 seconds will heal you for the equivalent of a full monster hit. Not to mention, if there are no teammates nearby, Punching Bag just grants you a free hit every 30 seconds. I don't have a whole lot more to say for those two, they're just beyond broken and need to either be nerfed or reworked. Distance Savior is in my opinion an example of a good but not broken perk. 40% faster rescuing speed will save you a few seconds, which doesn't sound like a lot, and it isn't. However, it really shines when monsters are camping. It's a very big issue in the game with no real measures against it, which is why I think Distance Savior is so good. It makes it so that you can rescue specialists even when the monster is camping, and has saved me and my teammates countless times. Definitely not on par with Leadership and Punching Bag, but still S tier. Shadow Walker is really good for stealthing around. The reason it's not S tier is because it unfortunately doesn't do much against Boxy's passive, which plays when near specialists. So no matter how quiet you are, you can always tell if someone's near. As well, the other monsters themselves have built-in information, so reduced audio won't do a lot when they already know where you are. Master Pianist is great at saving time on piano puzzles and was once the best perk in the game, but it has been nerfed directly and indirectly. It used to take off the last 3 series on the puzzle, but now it takes off the first 3, meaning before you would have to hit 6 keys, but now you have to hit 15. It has also been indirectly nerfed by adding more puzzles as the game goes on, meaning that there are less piano puzzles on the map than before, making the effect not used as much. Still alright at saving some time, but nothing above average anymore. Roly-Poly is the most polarizing perk in the game, since some people view it as S+, and others as F-. And honestly, I don't want to comment on it. I left this in B tier because my opinion of it changes a lot too, so I'm leaving it here as a nice middle ground. Leave No Trace is alright, but a lot worse than Shadow Walker, since even if monsters can't see where you've gone with footsteps, they can still just as easily use audio or any of their info tools. It can be useful in some situations, arguably a high B tier, although it does depend on the monster's skill level. Think Fast and Pathfinder both do technically help solve puzzles quicker, although not by a whole lot. Think Fast is definitely better, but the reflex puzzle is already really quick to do, so it won't save that much time. And same issue for Pathfinder, except that it's even worse at completing the puzzle faster. It saves a bit of time, so it's better than nothing, but still not very good in my opinion. Puzzle Picasso and Genius are useless, simple as. Fails are hard to make, and even when you make a fail, it barely does anything since the monster doesn't go to it half the time anyway. I would really recommend not using these, as near every other perk in the game is better. Claw Collector is literally worse than base kits. Slowing the claw's movement speed only helps in theory, when in actuality it functions the same at a slightly slower completion rate, and the more you run this perk the harder it will be to play the game without it because you'll be used to it. It's in need of a rework, not a buff. While the balancing needs some fine tuning, I'd say that most of the perks do have a place in the game and have their own unique strengths and weaknesses. Reworks may be needed, sure, but overall I like the diversity and different playstyles they can enable. Balancing perks and sabotages aren't the only thing to comment on here though. There are a lot more small things I'd like to mention too. 9 tips for specialists and 3 for each monster. Not necessary by any means, but definitely useful to know. I'll also be splitting them into beginner, intermediate, and advanced categories for how useful and or skillful they are. Some small beginner tips are: never use lockers. Monsters stick around long enough to outwait the held breath most of the time, and this results in a free hit. Instead, crouch and look down in a corner. Your crouch is really deep, making you hard to spot. Jumping at the end of your roll greatly increases the distance and your maneuverability. You should almost always be jumping as late as you can to maximize the distance. The maximum distance of your grab pack hands are shared. If you extend one, it will decrease the maximum extension of the other. This distance is marked in the center of your screen around your crosshair, so if you find it hard to gauge the max distance, then look at the center of your screen. If you're wondering why the toy chute isn't making any progress, that's because it can only be pulled down if both grab pack hands are first placed on the same pole and then both mouse buttons are being held down. Huggy's dash ability should pretty much never be used for movement due to the 30-second cooldown. The exception for this is in the end game where you have to patrol the train stations. Dashing for movement there can be a good idea to get a kill before the specialists escape. Mummy can cancel her grab early by pressing spacebar, allowing her to carry the momentum and reach a different spot if she changes her mind. Boxy should always try and be triangulating specialists. If music isn't playing in the area, it might be time to look somewhere else, as that's a sign no specialists are near. Next up are the harder intermediate tips. Don't instantly pull toy parts, put one grab pack hand on it and keep it there without pulling it in. This way you can still roll and pull the toy in when close to a deposit. Certain puzzles can be completed faster than others, specifically the claw and piano puzzles take a while longer. Sometimes it's a good idea to leave pillars containing these two puzzles and find other ones which take less time to complete so that the monster has less chance of interrupting you. You can press T to toggle between first and third person. I like to use third person when doing risky actions the monster might sneak up on me for, such as rescuing a teammate or checking around corners. First person is better for actions that require your grab pack to be more precise and minimize chances of missing. Specialists sometimes camp crash doors. If you see this as Huggy, you can pretend you're going one way, then switch up and quickly dash to them before they have time to react. Mummy's spotter lens is not a chase tool. If you lose line of sight to someone in chase, use audio to locate them. Only if the chase has fully ended should you use your spotter lens to locate the next person. Boxy can bypass the no abilities while carrying a specialist rule by charging a leap on top of a down specialist before releasing and picking them up. Very good for saving time. And here are the pretty difficult advanced tips. Don't instantly use grapple handles. Jump or roll across the gap and then look backwards and use it when on the other side to swing backwards. Very good at confusing monsters and creating distance. While approaching a crash door, instead of pulling it down, run forwards, then roll backwards after crossing the door, and pull the door down, trapping the monster on the other side. This confuses them and adds a little more time to the chase. Huggy is the worst monster movement wise, so especially on them it's important to try and learn parkour spots around the map to cut specialists off and get hits you otherwise couldn't. Mummy can avoid slowdown areas like vents and crawl spaces by jumping beforehand to completely negate the movement speed debuff. Special thanks to Nebula for showing me this tip. Foxy can double hit specialists if the first hit is right on top of them due to his short attack cooldown. It makes chases so much easier and can end them in literal seconds if you do the combo of double hits, grab into another double hit, and then leap into a final hit. And that's the tips and tricks I have for this game. It has a lot of min-maxing potential and definitely a higher skill ceiling than what meets the eye. I'd even argue with all the parkour aspects and movement focus that the game itself has a higher skill ceiling than most others in the genre. It really has a certain charm to it once you start being able to do everything consistently, and it captivated me for nearly 200 hours before I stopped playing consistently. Yeah, the balance is a little off, but I think it won't take that much change to put everything at a similar power level, which once again will perfectly transition into the last section of this video, how to fix the game. The game is unbalanced, simple as. 2 perks are basically necessary to take, while 3 are utterly useless. One sabotage is beyond broken, while another is near enough to the same power level. Foxy is the strongest monster with how he does everything Mummy and Huggy do better. There needs to be some fine tuning. And I want to put my 2 cents in to try and suggest what would make the game more well balanced, as well as add more variation. My idea of balance is that perks and sabotages, which are only great because of outside factors, like how Distant Savior is only great because camping is an issue, should be the meta S tier perks, while everything else should sit at either A or B tier so that they're not too strong or too weak. Of course though, that's just my opinion, as are all of the concepts I'll share with you here. Your idea of balance may be different to mine, and that's fine. I just like putting my ideas out there. Starting off, this is what I'd change about existing perks and sabotages. Leadership can't be nerfed to where it won't be unhealthy for the game, so I propose a complete rework. Remove the current effect entirely and replace it with the following. When you rescue a specialist from a hatch, you and that specialist leave no footprints, make no footstep sounds, and keep your speed boost for an extra 2, 3 or 4 seconds, depending on the tier. It still sticks to the idea behind the perk, which is to benefit others and yourself at the same time, while removing the broken effect of healing. You still act as a leader due to the prerequisite of having to save another specialist and lead them to safety while benefiting yourself. It's also multi-use, since even if the monster isn't near, keeping the speed boost can help you get around faster, so it will always get value. I think this new leadership will probably sit around A tier. Punching Bag will still keep the effect of a shield, however the conditions for it to be met will be changed. Instead of restoring every 30 seconds, it will now grant you a protective shield which blocks 1 hit from the monster, which recharges once 3, 2 or 1 toy parts are deposited. The effect is still there, but it won't be able to trigger nearly as much, a maximum of 7 times per game, with 1 starting shield and 6 restorations for each toy part. It's not guaranteed to work that many times either, since if your shield is already up when the monster hits you, it will get no value. I think this will balance the perk out pretty well and move it down from S tier to A. The effect is still strong, but not too strong anymore. Puzzle Picasso and Genius are completely useless as is. In my opinion, they both need reworks to make the puzzles faster instead of stopping a fail condition. For Puzzle Picasso, I would make its effect guarantees that 2, 3 or 4 squares on the collage puzzle will be in the correct rotation, meaning that you don't have to hit them to complete the puzzle. For Genius, I'd make its new effect reduces the beginning flashing light patterns before the puzzle starts by 6, 8 or 10. If you're confused by what this means, The memory puzzle has a small wind-up of sorts, where it flashes 10 patterns at you before showing the correct pattern, as shown in the footage here. This perk would remove these, allowing you to instantly start the puzzle. It's a bit more of a unique approach than what most people do of reduce the number of dots you have to hit per puzzle, and would actually end up saving more time than that approach too. I think that these changes would move Genius up to a low B tier and Puzzle Picasso up to a mid B tier. I'll explain the Puzzle Picasso change a bit more later as well. Claw Collector is a downgrade, as is. My change to it would be speeds up the animation of the claw grabbing and moving the toy by 200, 300 or 400%. I know those numbers sound big, but keep in mind this animation only takes 5 seconds, so at the highest tier this perk would save you 4 seconds per puzzle. Assuming you get all 3 first try, this would be 12 seconds saved per claw puzzle, which is in my view a pretty good time save. Nothing broken, nothing useless, just alright. Bumped it up from a D tier to low B tier perk. Shadow Walker should also reduce rolling audio by 90%, since it still makes a lot of noise, which kind of counteracts the point of the perk, which is to be silent. But that's all for Shadow Walker though, just a minor change, and I don't think it would change from its position in A tier. Think Fast and Pathfinder are both not very good since they barely save you any time. I think that I would personally rework Think Fast so that instead of reducing the number of buttons you need to hit, it would set the timer between buttons to 0.5, 0.25 or 0 seconds. The current time between hitting buttons is anywhere from 0.5 to 1 second, which means that at max level, this perk will averagely save you about 3/4 of a second per button hit, and with 16 buttons, that's 12 seconds saved per puzzle. Not only this, but it will also be a skill expression perk, since it would require additional reaction time, which I love the idea of. Pathfinder, I would simply increase the speed to 50, 100 and 150% per level. Nothing crazy, but enough to save that little bit more time. I personally like both of these changes and think they would both become B tier perks. One small thing that I would make as a global change to puzzle related perks is also make it so that when you have the perk equipped, the related puzzles around the map are highlighted in their respective colours. Blue for piano, yellow for reflex, red for memory, green for maze, orange for claw, and purple for collage. It would be a nice small change that tells you which puzzle pillars to go to so you can more consistently get value out of your perks. Next up are sabotages, which don't need as many changes. No Escape is, in my opinion, insanely broken right now by shutting down near all chase potential on the specialist's end for a third of the game. All it needs are some number tweaks, and I would simply decrease the duration to 10, 20, 30 seconds and increase the cooldown to 120 seconds. This now makes it so that it shuts off all routes for a fifth of the game instead of a third, which is a lot more reasonable for such a powerful effect, and I still think it would be really good. Reducing the duration would also fix the issue of the sabotage sometimes not allowing you as the monster to go through certain spaces due to crash doors being shut. I think this new No Escape would be a mid A tier, still strong but not broken strong. No Pack is also very good with how much it denies specialists, and honestly I don't think it needs that much of a change. Add a prompt for specialists to make the counterplay of re-enabling others' grab packs more obvious, since this only shows up half the time. That counterplay can completely negate the effects of the sabotage, which is why it should be more obvious. With this change, it now becomes much more of a 1v1 sabotage to help finish off a chase or interrupt actions instead of killing the whole group of specialists for free. I still think it would be good, but depending on the skill level of specialists you play against, it could either be a mid A or high B tier sabotage. Booby Trap isn't that good since the only useful stuff it provides is information instead of slowdown. Most specialists just tank the damage and the slow barely does anything, so I propose to add an effect where after it is triggered, the puzzle pillar it was triggered on will be disabled for 15 seconds. It's nothing insane, but definitely helps with the passive slowdown and fulfills the original vision of stopping specialists from completing puzzle pillars. I think this would make Booby Trap a high B tier sabotage after the changes. Next up is what I'd change about monsters to even out their power level. First, I'd like Huggy to move a little faster than the other two by 5 to 10%, since he doesn't have solid in-chase movement. It would help him out a lot in chase and actually give him some way of moving around the map too. On top of this, increase the speed at which Wagyu drones rotate by at least double so they aren't so easy to dodge by specialists, and also decrease the cooldown of his dash by 5 seconds, plus increase the distance by an extra third of what it already is, so that using it for movement isn't unviable. For Mummy, I would decrease the spotter lens cooldown by 2 seconds to make it 60, because 62 is a weirdly specific number. I'd also make it last for 5 seconds, since 3 is too short to justify the long cooldown, even if the information is very good. As for Boxy, I would decrease the range on their music box passive by around 20%, so that you aren't always having constant information on where specialists are. This makes sense for him since it would incentivize using his leap, which is his movement tool, more to cover a large area and see if specialists are there. And that's all I would change for him. Nothing too crazy, but still enough to make him not overpowered anymore, since in my opinion the music box is the strongest part of his kit. The game itself can unfortunately feel kind of jank or unclear at times, so I propose some quality of life adjustments too. Make it more clear that endgame toy shoots requires both grab pack hands pulling on it to work. Be it a text prompt on your screen, re-add in the tutorial that they removed, a sound cue when only one hand is being used. I don't really mind how they do it as long as it's obvious for new players. Mix up the spawns a bit. Currently all specialists and monsters spawn in the same location every time. I'd like to see specialists spawning in 3 pairs of 2 across the map and the monsters spawning in different areas around the map every time. As an indicator when near a downed specialist that you can revive them off the ground by holding interact. This is never shown to you and while not super useful, can still save a teammate every now and then. Add something to make it more obvious when you are hit as a specialist, be it a sound or visual effect. As of now, you can only really tell if you got a speed boost, which I think is a pretty lame way of telling the player that they were hit, since it lacks any form of impact. Make audio better, especially for monsters' footsteps. You can almost never tell where monsters are, since the footsteps sound like they're on top of you most of the time, and it's near impossible to tell which level they're on if the map has multiple floors. Puzzles are also a part of balancing which I never really see anybody talk about, which is surprising because how fast they are completely dictates the pace of the game. Not only this, but it also determines the strength of their related perks. The longer a puzzle takes to complete, the more a perk will help it out, increasing its strength, which is part of the reason why Master Pianist is the only really viable puzzle perk. As stands, piano and claw puzzles take 25 to 30 seconds to complete, memory takes 20 to 25 seconds, maze takes 15 to 20, reflex takes 10 to 15, and collage sometimes doesn't even take 5 seconds. No, I'm not exaggerating. I personally think that 20 to 30 seconds is what all puzzles should take to complete, since this means all puzzle pillars take at least a minute to complete without perks. Keep in mind that there are 6 specialists and only 6 pillars. This is ideal to encourage more efficiency and variation in perks from specialists. Puzzles which stand out of this time frame are reflex, maze, and obviously collage. Starting off with the worst offender, the collage puzzle takes anywhere between 3 to 7 seconds on average to complete, depending on how many squares need to be rotated and by how much. My fix to make it last longer would be requiring the puzzle to be finished 4 times instead of 1, similar to how the memory puzzle has to be completed twice. This would make the time frame 12 to 28 seconds, which, while still a bit jittery, is a lot better than what it was before. A very big nerf, yeah, the biggest in project history and probably the biggest there ever will be for this game, but considering how fast it is to complete already, I think it's deserved. Not only this, but it could make my proposed puzzle Picasso actually see some use to help shorten the puzzle time. Reflex is a simple fix. Increase the number of buttons needed to be hit from 16 to 24. A steep increase, but it would still, even after this, only be in the 15 to 20 second completion range. Accounting for the average time between buttons being 3/4 of a second, the puzzle would take 18 seconds to finish, which is close enough to a reasonable amount of time, especially considering my proposed Think Fast rework. Maze is a bit trickier to balance. See, this puzzle struggles a decent bit with RNG since the patterns are always different, so it's hard to find an exact time frame on it. What I would do is remove the lengthier pattern, which take any longer than 7 seconds to complete, and give it the same treatment as memory, where you have to complete the puzzle twice to finish it. Again, this also gives more use to Pathfinder 2, fixing multiple issues at once. Now there is one point of game balance I haven't talked about before I get into what to add, which is the question of if there should even be 6 specialists. The arguments are basically a back and forth of it's too much for the monster to keep up with, and monsters just need to get better at the game. In my opinion, yes, there should be 6 specialists, however, one of 2 things should happen to make the game not so specialist-sided. Give monsters a second sabotage, or increase the amount of puzzle pillars that need to be completed. If monsters gain a second sabotage, they can cover multiple weak points of their character. For example, Huggy is a slow-paced character with bad movement. Adding 2 sabotages could allow for them to run a perk to halt specialist progress, and one that would help him out in chase to catch up to specialists, covering both of the weak points. It would also call for some cooldown nerfs to compensate though. Increasing the amount of puzzle pillars to maybe 8 would not only give a reason to have so many specialists, but also fix the increasing issue of puzzle perks being irrelevant. As stands, puzzle perks aren't that good at all since you won't get to use the perk that much. This is because there are only 24 puzzles around the map across the 8 puzzle pillars, and with 6 unique puzzles that averages out to only 4 of each puzzle type. Factoring that there are 6 specialists, there's a chance that you won't even be able to do a single one of these puzzles if you have their related perk. But if there are 10 total pillars, only 8 of which are required, then you would have a higher chance of coming across the related puzzle. This, and also it leaves room to add more puzzles to the game, although with what I just said about the puzzle perks in mind, I wouldn't add any more than 2 for the time being. 5 specialists isn't a bad shout either. It would take a lot of pressure off of the monster, which is much needed. It would also mean lobbies fill up quicker since less players per lobby means more overall lobbies and less queue times. However, the issue I have with it is that monsters still do struggle even when going up against 5 specialists of equal or higher skill level, so reducing the specialist cap will only sometimes fix the balancing issue. The other ways always fix the issue though, which is why I think they're better options. Side tangent over, I'd love to see more variety in the game. That means more perks, sabotages, maps, monsters, and maybe puzzles. With 5 chapters now out in the main game, making maps will be easy with locations such as Playcare, the prison, and Sweet Streets being easily adaptable for projects. Similarly, there are a lot more monsters that could be added, not only just new monsters, but new monster playstyles too. Right now, we just have movement and chase-based characters, but there are so many more playstyles that could be enabled. The most obvious one is to add Catnap as a stealth monster, one that sneaks up on specialists instead of focusing on chase. Currently, there are no ranged characters in the game, the closest we have is Boxy's grab pulling in specialists. But I think Lily Lovebraids would be really good for this, so that instead of just being a mummy clone, she could use her hair to hit specialists at a distance. The last archetype of monster I could see working is Slowdown, aka side objective characters. They would revolve around having some kind of interactable item in the environment that specialists would have to deal with, such as, say, the Doctor being able to teleport to different bodies around the map, but specialists could shut them down. I'd also really like to see Yana be as a monster since they're just really cool and could make for the fastest paced chase monster in the game. Perks and sabotages as well have so much potential for expansion. There are so many untapped mechanics in the game that could be altered with perks to create new interactions, and I think we should have a lot more variety with them. Way back over 3 years ago, I made a concept for a perk which increased grab pack distance, and I still think that would be a really cool mechanic to add. Of course, not the only mechanic to build upon though. After playing the game, I can think of a few perks and sabotages that would fit really well into the current game, plus new categories for them. Puzzle perks I won't be going over since there's already a perk for every puzzle in the game, and the category is self-explanatory. Chase perks help you increase survivability while being pursued by the monster. Efficiency perks help you complete your objective faster. Stealth perks allow you to go unseen and unheard by enemies. Vigor perks allow you to take more hits and stay alive longer. And for the new category, Information perks give you valuable insights into what is happening in the match. Here are 12 new perk concepts that I've managed to come up with. Tempo. Grapple handles you swing on recharge 0.75 seconds faster. Rigid grasp. Crash doors you shut stay closed for 0.5 seconds longer. Retort. When hit by the monster, recharge your roll cooldown. You keep your speed boost when hit for an extra 0.5 seconds. Extension pack. Increase maximum grab pack distance by 50%. Deliverer. Grants a 15% move speed bonus and the ability to roll while carrying a toy part. Stowaway. You make no noise while inside lockers, make no entry sounds, and enter them 400% quicker. Suppression pack. Reduce audio of your grab pack and any corresponding actions by 90%. Accolades. Heal 10% health after completing a puzzle. Fortify. Lockers you are hiding in take 4 more hits to open. Wavelength. When a specialist is hit within 50 meters of you, highlight the attacker for 3 seconds. This perk has a 30-second cooldown. Sixth Sense. Once a toy part is deposited, the monster is highlighted to you for 5 seconds. Alert. When the monster is within 25 meters of your location, they are highlighted to you for 2 seconds. This perk has a 60-second cooldown. Sabotages also have their own unique categories, currently of which there are 5. Slow down sabotages halt or slow down specialist progress. Efficiency sabotages help you complete your objective faster. Chase sabotages give you an edge when pursuing specialists. Stealth sabotages allow you to sneak around the map. Information sabotages give you insight into the location of specialists. And I don't actually have any new ideas for a new sabotage category. They kinda cover all fronts that monsters need already. That being said, here are 6 new sabotage ideas that I have. Obstruction. Seals shut all toy machine deposits for 30 seconds and resets one finished puzzle on the nearest 3 puzzle pillars. 120 second cooldown. Increase cooldown by 12 seconds for each puzzle pillar completed. Shrine. Specialists lose their health inside of hatches 75% faster while their hatch progress is over 20 seconds and you are further than 25 meters from the hatch. This effect persists for 60 seconds, 150 second cooldown. Malevolence. Increase movement speed by 15% for 3 seconds, 1 second after hitting a specialist. This effect lasts for 30 seconds and has a 120 second cooldown. Silk Step. Silence your footsteps and ability sounds for 45 seconds, 150 second cooldown. Scopophobia. Highlights any specialist that looks directly at you. The highlight lingers for 5 seconds after line of sight is broken. This effect lasts for 30 seconds, 100 second cooldown. Tension Rising. Highlights all specialists who are running, solving a puzzle pillar, or carrying a toy part for 30 seconds, 120 second cooldown. I also made tier lists for what I personally think the strength of each of these perks and sabotages would be if they were added to the game if you're interested. While I would love to talk about them more, I don't want to go on a side tangent for another 20 minutes, and honestly I could make a whole video about them all. These are just some suggestions I got carried away with making because I was having fun. As I said before, there are plenty of locations that can be adapted into maps. The labs, Sweet Street, No Man's Land, Biodiversity Labs, Playcare, so many locations can be maps. It's not anywhere close to being doable for me alone to make a whole map concept, so the best I can do is suggest these locations, but I wanted to throw them out there. As for more puzzles, despite what I said before about there possibly being room for them, I think I only add 1, maybe 2 more if the number of puzzle pillars is increased. If they don't increase the number of puzzle pillars, leave it for now. As stated before, puzzle perks are already kinda useless because the same puzzles don't appear so much, so adding more of them would only make the issue worse. However, if they go against this advice and decide to add more puzzles without increasing the number of pillars, it really isn't that hard to come up with concepts for what they could be. Just look at mobile or carnival games and adapt them. Any rhythm game could be a puzzle, Flappy Bird would be easy to add, one of those test your strength carnival games. Think about it for just a little bit and you'll realise how many possibilities there are. And that concludes what I would like change for project, and by extension, this video. Project is a really fun game despite its flaws, and the fact that servers are still up gives me hope that one day it will get updated. This video was basically just what I love about the game and what I would love to see as changes. Everything here is of my own opinion, of course. I'm sure there's some people out there who think the game is monster-sided or that Claw Collector is a really good pack. Somehow. Apologies that this video took so long to come out as well. It was originally going to be a short 10-minute video meant to come out a month ago, but I kept having more and more to say, and now we're probably at around 45 to 50 minutes runtime. I had a great time making this video, and I'm glad to be back making them in general. And a very special thank you to my friend Nebula for helping out so much on this video. Half the clips you saw were only possible because they put up with me. So very big thank you to them. Thank you to everyone who's been here for me along the way. I appreciate it more than you can imagine. Thank you for watching. I'll see you in the next one. Bye.